Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. Today is the last day for AI Africa series, the second edition, and our session is going to be led by Dr. Pius. Okay, so I wish everyone welcome. If you haven't registered for your certificate, I will be dropping the link. Kindly do well to register as well. Check out africosity.org, our website, where you can get courses and certifications as well. And before I introduce Dr. Pius, if today is your first time, you can just give me a thumbs up with your emoji. You can react so we know we have new people in the house. And for those that stick throughout with us, I can see names like Ebenezer. Ebenezer started with us since Tuesday, and he's still here. Jessica is familiar, and others as well. So thank you guys, really. We really appreciate your presence. Okay, so there are no reactions, so we don't have any new people with us. So I would let Dr. Pius start with his presentation. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand to ask them, or you can type them and I will read it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gloria. I'll just take the first second to welcome everybody again, once again. Um, it's been an interesting week, and today we are looking at, um, I think this morning, our first session will be AI for students and learners. Later in the evening, that will be the last session. We'll also be looking at AI for teachers and trainers. Now, with everything that has been said in AI, one of the most important ones, especially to me as an academic and as a trainer, is how AI impacts uh, my students, or the use of AI impacts my students when it comes to learning, when it comes to assessment, and also as a lecturer, when it comes to giving assignments and this time around grading assignments. You realize that it's it's actually it depends on where you see it from. Like it could be that it made education easier, or it's even made things more difficult now. It really depends on where you're coming from. So we are going to touch on a few points. um I'll also based on my own personal experiences, and then um hopefully I can also get some comments from the audience as well. So um, we'll be looking at applications of AI in educational technology. We'll be looking at personalized learning with AI tools for language learning, um, AI for academic support and tutoring, ethical considerations in AI for education, and future prospects of AI in learning. So generally, we can actually easily start with how AI is positively impacting learning for students. Right. Um, the first one, that is the adaptive learning platforms, based on maybe what the students' preferences are, based on what the student intends to learn. These days, there are a lot of AI platforms that provide um, or that allow students to easily have access to most of the things that they would rather be learning. And there are several platforms, right? So maybe I am a computer science student, or I'm a marketing student, and initially you would spend a lot of time looking for the sort of content or the sort of direction that you want to um, to base your learning on. These days, there are AI tools that even provide a learning path for you, so that if you say that you're a first year business student, and then there are specific topics that will be suggested for you to follow that path of learning. There are also, in terms of content recommendation for students, in giving specific learning materials and all that, it's become easier for students to have access to that. So you'd realize that these days, even when you stand before students to teach, um, most of the, especially when they are already aware of um, what the content should be ahead of class, you realize that they've already gathered a lot more information than you would have even expected. So, and then also these days there are also tutoring systems for students to learn, right? So they when students are able to get onto these platforms, um, they have an AI tutor. These days, it's not necessarily looking for somebody online to do the step-by-step tutoring for you, but you realize that there are some AI tutors that are um, online that are giving you some form of guidelines and all that. Recently, there was a test case in the US. I've forgotten exactly which university, where they actually had the AI tutor in front of the class, a robot that was uh, teaching the students in a specific subject. So eventually, we are likely to have people that, AI machines that are standing in front of students and teaching them. So intelligent tutoring systems are some of the um, enhancements that are coming with personalized learning with AI.
Uh, Hello, Dr. Pio.
Hello? Yes.
Uh-huh. Uh, I don't know because I cannot hear you.
Oh,
Have you started?
yes, yes. I've actually been talking for some time now. Is it the case for everybody?
No, I
No,
could hear you.
I can hear you.
I can
Oh,
also hear you.
Oh,
okay.
I see. Then it was my issue. I think I can hear
Okay.
you now. So you can proceed.
All right. All right. And also, the second point when it comes to how beneficial AI is where we are talking about administrative tasks, right? These days, I don't know if any of you have taken any online courses, but you realize that these days, especially on Coursera, there are quite a number of courses where you uh, take an assignment or an assessment and it is automatically graded for you. So before you are, you do not have to wait for a few days. Some of these online programs, you'd realize that they have um, they have thousands of students, right? So they've automated the way that grading is done. Even for in the past, some of the courses that I've taken where they are programming tasks, even the programming is the grading of these um, assignments are automated. So the moment you finish um, completing the assignment and then you submit, you realize that you get a grade immediately after that, and that is actually helping a lot with the work that um, teachers have to do. But at the same time, it's also helping your students because they're getting timely feedback and they know exactly what to do next or what to focus on in their learning. Like then we also have resource allocation optimization, that provision of the certain resources, right? Sometimes um, I was recently in a meeting, in a strategy meeting where we're looking at, okay, how do we increase the number of students? Even if you're talking about increasing the number of students, how do we make sure that there's the right giving the physical resources at the classrooms and all that, and giving the other materials that are needed, how do we know that what we have is sufficient for maybe the number of students that we are projecting in the next 5 years? So predictive analysis of everything you have and what your expectation are. Once you throw that into some of these tools, you're able to tell that, okay, if this is your plan for the next 2 years, then what you have today is not enough. So let's maybe you need to add one more classroom, or you need to start working towards increasing the number of materials that you have. So it's become a very useful way um, to work in terms of allocating resources for the purpose of student learning. Right. Then there's also, uh, of course, personalized course scheduling, where you given the number of programs that you have. These days, it's not even that manually done anymore. Right. So when you have um, say you're part of a department where course allocation has to be done for both students and lecturers. All you have to do is to make sure that you have all the streams that would be involved in learning for that academic term, and then you um, run that through a system, and it will give you allocations such that you do not have overlapping courses and course clashes in your timetable and all that. All right. Um, there are people that have different ways of learning, and when it comes to that, these days, um, there are simple assessments or simple tests that can be uh, taken, and to understand how easily a student is when it comes to the different forms um, of learning. Right? Some are visual, some are auditory, some are are more of a combination of both and all that. And when you understand how easily or the how students are able to learn, then you sort of tailor your course content or your learning content for the students. So students are able to get more personalized um, form of learning for any subject. Right? A lot of research has gone into, especially mathematics, where students are made to, or the systems are made to understand exactly how easily students learn, whether they only learn visually or whether they learn by listening or doing both.
Dr. Pius, please,
And
your
hello.
battery is running down.
Yes, I'm about to um, plug in the charger. All right. So apart from that, there's also where language learning is these days. There are so many ways that people can learn, and you find content sometimes in different languages. I remember some time ago I was looking for content for um, computer vision, because I was teaching computer vision, and I was looking for content for some of the guides online. I stumbled on a very good content that was in Spanish. But luckily, the platform that I was getting that information from had an AI language translation tool that assisted in helping me understand exactly what uh, um, the, the 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 tutor was saying in the tutorial. So I was able to get most of the content that I needed to assist me in preparing my um, notes for the class. And this actually helped me a lot when, uh, I mean, so in this case, I was a learner and I needed some form of help with with the language that I was actually listening to the tutorials from. Right. Then also there are different ways also that um, we can have tools, right? That allows, I mean, these days everything is about inclusion and having, you can have students from that have one from diverse backgrounds, students that have various disabilities, students that have special needs. And when you have students like that, you want to find different ways that you can assist in the student learning. And most of the time, these days, there are very smart devices that are used and all that for the students to, or to enhance students' learning. Please give me about 2 minutes. I'm going to um, go off right now and then rejoin again because I am unable to. I probably left my computer charger in the office yesterday, so I'm switching to another computer. So kindly give me just 2 minutes. I'm almost there, but I have a feeling that this system might just go off.
Well noted. Yes. So again, once we wait for Dr. Pius to join us and continue with the rest of the series, just want to take the opportunity to um, say that yes, this is a series of lectures that we intend to have from time to time. It happens in every quarter of the year. So this is the second series that we're having. In our third series before the year ends, we intend getting specific tools and walking you through all those tools so you can understand how to have your way around those tools as well. Those who are software developers, how do we harness, you know, these days cars are produced or car engines can easily be manufactured using models. Okay, so you craft those models and you get those cars out of it. So those things are still in software as well. So how do we, develop applications using the simple tools from AI platforms? So we would go into some of those things as well. So as times goes on, so be in the lookout for our posts and try and join most of our training sections. It's basically free, but as we said, it is good that you get the certificates to back your CVs and back your, other things you want to do with it up. So the certificate is 100 Ghana cedis. Those of you who want it, is not compulsory. It's just for those who want it because you don't know what will happen tomorrow. So we're sharing those links on the chat area, so you can put your name and your details in the sheet we are passing around, so we can get a certificate to you as well. So if you're interested, please keep checking the chat area, and you get the details to fill in those details as well. And we also have a platform called Africosity. Africosity.org is basically for just like what Dr. Piles mentioned in terms of Udemy or Coursera. We have a replica of that. So you can check it out. If you want to learn, or you are a professional in specific areas and you also want to put out your what do you call, your knowledge for sale, we would be glad to sell that for you to the public. But we try to make sure that it's not expensive for them not to be able to afford, something that would be affordable. So get out there and also get opportunity to have a side, job for yourself. Please also send us your impression about the training, what you've learned, what you think we can, do better in the subsequent event. So the links also shared in the chat section as well. Thank you very much, Doctor. I think you are back now.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm back.
Great.
Thank you very
Take
much,
over, please.
Emmanuel. All right. Yes. So, um, picking up from where I left off, um, now when it comes to learning as well, there are systems that um, have been developed with uh, especially with a lot of research. Like I mentioned earlier, since there are various ways of learning, maybe currently there are a few institutions that actually really focus on the styles of learning of their students, right? So that they can assist them better. The fact that somebody it, that's a strong belief that I have. Everybody can do math. It's just how you deliver math to them that makes it either easier or difficult for them. Right. So when it comes to how um, students interact with some of these content, maybe if I'm interacting with images and pictures and videos better than written text, then it means that probably most of the content that should be given to me should be given to me visually, right? And maybe I might probably dis choose to listen more than watching. So listening and probably taking notes and writing It's also probably maybe my learning style, or um, I just have to combine everything in order to understand content better. So when it comes to interacting with content and knowing exactly that, okay, maybe this is the type of content that should be recommended to a student, then really when any student logs in, this is exactly how it should be done. Now, this also goes a long way to also allow the educator to understand that, okay, my students are not the same. That they all have different ways that they are learning, so that more focus is placed on exactly how content is delivered to some of these students. Right. So, and also, like I mentioned earlier, real-time feedback and adjustments, right? So that immediately your assignment is submitted, you're getting your feedback back. But not like those days when you have to wait probably till um, the end of the semester or even the beginning of the following semester before you have feedback on work that you did during the previous semester. So it's actually very important that uh, real-time feedback is gotten. When you look at the individual learning styles, the VAC system or the VAC learning styles, where um, I think VAC, that's visual through visual perception, through auditory, through kinesthetic, and then reading and writing strategies. I remember I had a student previously about 3 years ago who she struggled um, with completing her computer science program. I mean, in the beginning, she had that struggle. When she started reading about learning styles and trying to see exactly what her problem was, she realized that, okay, there are different ways that she understands things. And so at the end of the her program, interestingly, her final project as a computer science student was to develop a system that helped to assist students that struggled with learning and allowing students to understand what their learning styles are so that they can better um, it makes it easier for them to find the right content for them to learn, which was actually a very interesting project uh, to finish by a student after understanding that they had a different learning style from most of their mates. And also these days, even no matter how hard it may be, um, educators try to make learning more fun and educative and more interactive for students. There are certain students too that um, would rather not interact that way or respond that way. But you realize that once they get onto a system where the system of learning has been gamified, for instance, or the system of learning is more fun through games, through and 3D animations and interactions, it becomes even easier for them to be more engaged and to be more motivated to do the learning. And from my experience, taking maybe younger ones who are not even at the uh, higher education level, are not in the universities, you realize that teaching programming has become a lot easier because there are more um, fun ways of teaching programming through games. They are learning concepts of programming through um, um, programming blocks. They are even enjoying programming better. So you realize that by the time they reach a certain level, they um, the programming concepts become very easy to them, and they know that okay, this concept that maybe this lecturer is trying to teach me is what I was doing while playing fun games and writing simple 2D animations and games. Right. So once you're able to engage learners better and make learning more fun, you realize that it becomes easier for them to learn. And so a lot of people now are learning through some of these systems, and most of them are AI generated. Also, like I mentioned earlier, using assistive technologies and different modules for language translation, and all that. These days, it's even more generative. There are people that are even learning. Um, so there are AI sign language avatars that are even assisting in translation to people that may be people that may be hearing impaired and people that may have problems with their speech as well. So it's making it more inclusive for people to be part of the learning process. At first, mostly you'd realize that there is assistance at the lower level, where at the basic level, one, but by the time they want to reach higher education, then you realize that there's not a lot of resources that help or that assist even most of these universities in providing the right form of education or equal form of education to people with special needs. But with the introduction of AI into learning, most of these smart tools and devices into learning is becoming more and more possible for people that have some of these disabilities to go further into their university education or higher level education. Right. So we have interactive language learning platforms. We have personalized language learning experience, enhanced vocabulary and grammar support. These days, there are a lot of generative models. You have large language models, um, uh, ChatGPT and the others that actually assist in um, in correcting some of your vocabulary and grammar, so that by the end, whatever work that you've put together, you have um, ways that you are able to improve upon the vocabulary and grammar that you use. I mean, several years ago when Grammarly came up, a lot of people were it was Grammarly was not free at the time, and so it was even more difficult to have that integrated into your words to use if you're not paying for it. But these days, with all these free large language modules around, um, it's actually made it easier for people to have these things corrected in their work before they come up with a final product. And um, we have text to speech, speech to text, text to vision applications today that are actually helping with the uh, correcting how maybe language is spoken. Also, looking at language assessment test, for instance, you have tools that are assisting. So most of the time, you realize that when a student is done with their work, they want to check and be sure that um, whatever they have done is likely to give them good grades. So um, they run that through their system. We'll talk about the ethical part of some of these practices as well, and see how some institutions are even allowing, whether they're allowing or disallowing or creating regulations around them. But once it's AI that has been introduced, then of course the ethical issues also arise. Ethical, legal, privacy issues also arise. So we'll talk about that, especially when it comes to assessment. So we're saying that you can utilize AI for language proficiency assessment, but what are some of the things that you're allowed to do, or what are some of the things that you're not allowed to do as a student? So, for academic support and tutoring, we realize that uh, apart from the learning experience that you have and maybe the real-time feedback that you get, there are a few things that you know are always available, right? 24/7, once you're able to um, start a tool that is available online or anywhere else. It doesn't matter. You're looking for assessment for maybe uh, an essay that you've probably put together. You're looking for corrections and grammar support. It's you can just plug that in and then you get it. You do not have to wait until maybe the following day to get the assistance of maybe uh, maybe a teaching assistant to assist you in getting that done. And that actually makes work easier and faster for you to complete. So, um, timeliness is a very important thing today. You, uh, the number of students that we have today in academic institutions is several numbers more than what we used to have in the past. When our parents were in school, they'll tell you that they 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 weren't as many as today, where you can have in a class, maybe for taking a particular course. Some in our public schools, you would have 400, 500, 800 students that are there, and that means that when it comes to giving feedback on assessments and all that, it's it's definitely going to take a very long time. Sometimes you move from first year or level 100 to level 200 or second year before you even see what your results are for the first term in school. But these days, it's become easier grading. So it's made it easier also for lecturers to demand that the uh, your assessments are sent via some online tool or some online platform so that they would do the marking for you, and that makes it easier. Right? Smart content recommendation, language support, and time management assistant also is um, it's all about boils down to efficiency. Efficiency has to do with being accurate with the work you do and being on time as well. So um, it's made getting work done faster for students because it's easier for content to be recommended to you. The time that you spend in looking for every available content to get your work done reduces significantly. All right. Um, I'd want to touch on where these days um, a lot of researchers in collaboration with psychologists and all that have also come up with smart systems where some of advice is given to students. Um, for some students, going through school can be a very daunting experience, very difficult experience for them, and looking for some form of assistance for them is very important. Sometimes they may not want to um, see somebody to tell them what all their problems are. So there are AI systems that are able to assist in that sense, right? So that these systems encourage students, help them to come out of these um, um, what some students will call breakdowns. By the time they go through some form of frustrations in school, that um, where they are likely to probably drop out or discourage in in, the continuous learning. Sometimes you will have systems that are available where they can go um, type out. Some of them are voice enabled as well. Talk about how they feel, and they get um, personalized encouragement from some of these generative models to assist them. Now, when it comes to AI ethics and responsible use in learning, that is where um, most of the time that is where the questions are asked, especially with student learning. Um, the advantages and disadvantages of it. You realize that some of these large language models, I mean, the proper ones, whenever you decide to just give it a task that you have been assigned to, it will probably, instead of giving you the direct answer, give you guidelines towards how you should answer such a question. Now, a lot of regulators are saying that this is what the, these generative models should be trained to do. Instead of providing answers, they should provide um, guidelines to the students in what they are trying to get in maybe answering a question. But this has been very difficult because um, large language models, for instance, it's data that is being fed to them, and they train on that. And unless it is contextualized or whatever question that maybe a student tries to type in to quickly get an answer and submit, unless it's very contextualized, it's very easy for some of these large language models to provide answers to a student. Now, the question is, as a student or as a learner, maybe you may be successful in cheating that way, right? By just um, copying the question, submitting it to some language model or some generative model, and getting answers and providing that. And maybe a lecturer might um, not suspect that, okay, this is AI generated and just mark and then go their way. But um, when it comes to you yourself as a student, the question is whether you are really achieving the learning outcomes that have been set out for maybe that particular program that you're taking, right? But also, thankfully too, because things are AI generated, there are also AI models that have been trained to detect AI generated content, right? So um, the it's both an advantage and disadvantage. An advantage probably to the students to easily get an answer, a question answered. It might and also um, a disadvantage to somebody who might not suspect it that is grading you. But it's also an advantage to them because now AI is also being used to detect AI generated content. Right. When it comes to privacy and data security, it's very, very important. Um, Although we are providing a lot of data to be analyzed by AI, how sure are we that maybe that particular system that you're providing these things to are not going to use your data for anything that without your permission, right? When it comes to bias and fairness, for instance, now um, I can tell you for a fact that some of these commonest large language models that we use are are trained on data that is um, might be a bit skewed towards content or data collection from a particular region in the world, right? And so when it comes to providing information, you may end up getting information that may be relevant to maybe uh, to the West than it is to maybe the kind of research that you're trying to do for your own region. I mean, we're on the African continent, and it's possible that um, you might be looking for information, but the sort of results that you get or solutions that you get might not work for you in might not probably work in your case. And that is because not enough data has been collected from this region in order to train some of these models, for instance. Right. So it's very important that whilst we look at the ethics and responsible use of AI, it's in learning. I mean, you can nobody stops you from using AI to learn. Actually, where I am, um, it has been understood that at Lancaster University, it has been understood that it can be difficult to stop it if, when it comes to assessment to stop a student from using AI tools. But now students are required to um, if they use an AI tool to answer a question, they are required to actually state that they used maybe ChatGPT to generate this answer. They're required to also state exactly what sort of prompt was used. If you use the exact same question that maybe the lecturer gave to you in your assignment, if you use exactly that same question to as your prompt, then that is not allowed. um, let's say that write an essay to about the impact of Internet of Things on businesses, and you copy that exact same question and push that to your generative model, and you get answers, and you copy those answers exactly as they are, and you put them down. Um, Definitely, what you've done is unethical. So uh, you you get penalized for it. But if it is that you state, okay, specific different prompts, different lines in order to get certain guidelines and use the responses from this generative model as a guide to write to do your own work, then it is okay. Then that is also that is allowed. So really, it depends on exactly what is allowed and not allowed. But the general regulations in AI use would be that you're not. I mean, copying content from AI is actually considered plagiarism. Copying exact content that solutions that you get from AI is considered plagiarism. And plagiarism in all institutions is a very serious offense by students. So um it is very important that some of these things are considered, right? Um, Also, another thing as a student is that when you, in your learning, when it comes to uh, copying a lot of things from AI generated content, it makes it difficult for your lecturer to really understand what your needs are, what your challenges are, probably what they are teaching you. And so they are unable to um, tailor their 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 teaching and to be advantageous to you, so for you to benefit anything from it, right? So um, it becomes difficult. So you realize that if you are in the space that when you give assignments and you give exams, now these assignments are usually take-home assignments, and it's likely that there will be inconsistencies, very significant inconsistencies between assignments, take-home assignments, and written exams. You will see that a student is scoring 95% in assignment, but and their exam, um, they they barely pass their exams. You see them scoring maybe 40% in the exams, and then who does it affect? It actually ends up affecting the student because now um, in the written exams you're exposed because you've used AI tools to solve all the questions that you had during your assignment, but in exams, you end up struggling. You see, so at the end of the day, the learning outcome that is supposed to be achieved is not achieved. And who does it affect? It's the student, the learner. Right. So that is also a very important point that is should be considered. It might be easy for you to find your solutions, but once you enter the exam hall and you have to write, and that is when you realize that you could have done better. I mean, um, nobody is stopping anybody from using AI tools from learning, but once you finish learning, what about assessment? Even in using AI tools in in your assignments, there are better ways that you can do that in order to ensure that you are still learning something from uh, your program. So A few more, a couple more slides to go. How does AI empower um AI? I mean, how are students empowered with enabled learning? Like you said earlier, making students more engaged, making it more fun for students to learn. And also, apart from AI tools being used for everything when it comes to learning, these days there are more um, AI tools or development of AI tools that address the ethical issues that we mentioned earlier, and so they help promote. Now, regulators all over are making sure that um, AI also is used in some of the issues and challenges that arise from its use. So, development, when you're developing, you're making sure that you are following most of the regulations, making sure that all the ethical considerations are being made or are being considered in the decision making by AI technology. So making sure that, especially in education, making sure that the uh, amount of issues regarding plagiarism, for instance, are minimized. Mm. All right. So one major uh, breakthrough that we've had with AI in education is making sure that it's more inclusive. That doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what form of disability you have. Providing equal opportunities to everybody across board is one thing that AI is assisting in today. So we'll be talking about educators later in the evening and how AI is actually helping educators. Uh, I mean, today it's become even more difficult to decide exactly how to assess students. But once, um, but AI is also helping in that regard to ensure that um, teaching assessments are rigorous, they are fair, and they are ethical. In that sense. So when it comes to governance, that's also a very important thing. I realize everything has to do with governance and policy making. Once the people in charge are realize that AI has a great impact, positively and negatively, on on students of a country or in capacity building, the the sort of regulations that they put around it, the sort of investments that they put into developing AI in the educational sector becomes a priority to them. So they'll work on policy frameworks for ethical use of AI in education. They want to make sure that people are held accountable and responsible for both the development and use of AI in education. They make sure that students' rights are safeguarded. They make sure that um, uh, there's a balance in how AI is being used and how AI is being developed, so that a lot of these issues and challenges can be avoided. So governance is also very, very important. That's why these days, in assessing the AI adaptability of any country, one of the things that are looked at are a national strategy in AI. Very few countries actually have sat down to uh, put together a national strategy for AI development and use. But there are also general guidelines by UNESCO, and there are also the OECD AI principles. Recently, the EU came up with AI regulations um, for the entire European Union, And just a few weeks ago, they decided that they were going to enforce them so that it's not just rules and regulations that exist, but countries in the EU are being forced to make sure that they focus on. And actually, the EU AI Act is focuses a lot on human rights. So every country is required to come up with an AI strategy, a policy for how their developers develop um, any AI application and how the people are using them in the right way. All right. So, of course, everybody is looking at, okay, in future, how is AI going to help us? All the points that we've noted on uh, today, how AI is helping or enhancing learning. We are also looking at how it will even be made better. All right. So further advancements um, in in AI in learning, and we're looking at better um, devices, better recommendations, better um, ways of understanding and working with our individual learning styles, and um, better ways of building capacity among our learners as well, right? So making it also possible these days. You're even learning, and yeah, with the use of both virtual and augmented reality, it's become very easy to also make it more engaging and more interactive. Right. So making sure that it's all these things are made better and more accessible. These days, if you're talking about there are different learning platforms that actually use virtual reality and augmented reality, but um, if it's only people that can afford them that actually have access to them. So how do you make it easily accessible across board to everybody? It's also very important that we are looking at that in the future of AI, right? So apart from the individual learning styles, we have the education accessibility that we mentioned earlier, right? And also making support for teaching um, better, right? So that it becomes easier. These days, I mean, in the future, some people are saying that in the future AI is going to replace um, how learning is done completely, such that people might probably not even need uh, a human to be sitting in front of them and teaching them, and that things are going to be easier. There are a lot of people, a lot of things that are going to be put together for to make learning better. Of course, if you understand how AI works and how data is collected and how training is done, human expertise today is still needed. So um, that is going to complement how um, the experts are there to make sure that learning is done better for everybody. So, in the of course today there are challenges in making sure that all the ethical considerations are made in development of AI, but looking to the future and making sure that or hoping that most of these things will be minimized so that learning can be fair, learning can be more ethical. All right. So that brings an end to my presentation. I think I've done um, about an hour, and I'm going to allow for any comments or any questions from the audience.
Yeah, Ebenezer, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I want to ask this question. Incorporating AI in our learning, but we say this, then are we forgetting the people in the rural areas when it comes to bandwidth? Because we are saying it, yes, it is coming. But what are we also doing? Because people in the rural areas, somebody like me, I am in Ashanti region. And if you could notice, yesterday evening, I couldn't join the evening class because where I was, the service there was very bad. How are we going to solve that one too?
Okay. Um, I would say something. If anybody also has a comment to make, they can. So you see, that's if you looked at some of the things that we mentioned governance and policies. Um, when a government is interested in a particular area, let's say they are going to introduce, they're going to be interested in making sure that AI is easily accessible to everybody. It's the policies that and the interest in investing into that area that make it possible, so that even people that once you know that it's AI, that AI is technology and AI is internet driven today, at least as it is now. So that means that the increasing better capacity in bandwidth and making sure that it goes across the entire country should be an important or should be a priority to the government, even before they can even push that, okay, everybody should have access to AI technology or AI tools in learning. So we are looking, I mean, in future, we are hoping that a lot more attention is drawn towards the development of AI, especially when it comes to the education sector. And if that is done, that because even today, um, for instance, if you talk about Ghana, for instance, in Ghana, we are saying that they're going to provide tablets to every student across the whole country. This includes both rural and urban areas. But um, another thing that also needs to be considered is access to internet by the people in some of these areas where uh, these some of these tablets are going to be made provided to students. Right. So it's all about governance and policy making. Once these things are prioritized, then it shouldn't be a problem to have access to um, AI-enabled education. And I think Juliet also has something to say.
Yes, Fayos, thank you. Yes, it's about the policies and how the AI-driven education is done. So we have the online and the offline type. We have the offline and the online type. So some of them are self-paced, and some of them are not like live education. Some of them are, even though they are online, you can do it at a place where you think is convenient for you with internet. And there are some, especially the ones that are tablet-based, most of them are offline. You can use them offline and then you join online maybe once a week or something. So there are so many modalities to AI driven education. Me, I'm a digital learning professional, so there are most of the things that when you are building, you consider the availability of internet, especially for students. This issue about the absence of the teacher does not totally take the teacher out of the equation. The equation is that now the teacher would build up the models and give support. So you have community discussions and all that to enable you to understand the pace at which you are going. Because it says students learn more when they are given the opportunity to self-pace. So they think about it, they're able to reflect, they're able to be creative and innovative, unlike when the teacher is standing in front of them. That is what research is telling us. So that is how the thing is going. So yes, it is, the internet is a worry, but I'm sure by the time we are ready for this, the speed of the internet to the Africa sub-region will be high, and we'll also get access to internet. It's surprising that a lot of rural areas, most of the time, that is the complaint. What about the rural areas? What are the rural areas? Surprisingly, some rural areas are doing better even than the urban areas. So we'll just encourage them to also try as much as possible to learn and keep up the game, because nobody will take the excuse that you are from a rural place, even though sometimes it helps. But if you go elsewhere, you have an opportunity to study elsewhere. The fact that you are from a rural place does not displace you. You have to match up, do extra work to match up the game. So this is what I have to contribute. Thank you.
Yeah, so uh, Mr. Ebenezer, it is true. I mean, it is difficult to, because I'm also a rural person, so I understand what it means to live in those spaces and the frustration that you have to, endure to be online and also be part of the conversation that we are having. Is I mean, it's a genuine question and concern that you're raising, but the issue is commitments by our leaders to make sure that these issues are addressed. And again, I said before in my previous presentation that as for digital device, whether we like it or not, we will get it. Even in Accra itself, we still have digital device. There are people who have, people who do not, and we need to continue to address the issue until we get to that level. Okay, so yeah, that's a little I can add. Let's push, let's advocate, let's when we get opportunity to be able to put in, so that our leaders will understand, will hear from us that this is what we are looking for, this is what we need to get at what time. We believe that the future will be bright when the right people are in the place to make sure that these things are done properly. Thank you. Yes. So I think we have another version, another what do you call it, series coming up. The time is up now. So those of you who want to join that, you can quickly switch to that section. AI for marketers. So yes, I don't know, Doc. You want to add something else, or we can end it here?
Oh, we can end it here. I thank you so much
Okay, good.
for
All
joining us
right.
this morning.
So yeah, so please, if you want a certificate, please get to the chat area and put in your names, and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much.